This is Emily. I am the owner of the Etsy shop Joys of Color, and I'm going to be showing you how to make these lovely mini skein earrings. And pretty much all that's involved is making a very, very small hank of yarn. And it's actually not terribly hard. So what my supplies are, is I'm using sock weight yarn, and of course scissors to be able to cut the yarn, and to help wind the hank, because usually if you're making a bigger one, you do it by hand, and you tuck the twisted ends one into each other, but you can't do that with something this small. So I'm winding the hank, as you'll see, with these two knitting needles, and these are size 0. And of course, when you're all done, what you do is you slip the earring on, the hank of yarn onto this, and then attach it to that. Okay, so to begin, get the end of yarn here. Okay, so you don't want to wrap this around too much. I'm going to wrap it around this block 5 times, and that will give me the perfect base as thick as this is. You don't want to wrap the yarn too much, because then you'll get too fat of a yarn hank, and it won't look quite as good, or if you don't wrap it as much, it'll be too skinny. So I'm going to wrap around 5 times, as I said. So 3, 4, 5. Okay. So I just held this end down, and so I'm going to cut off this end here to be kind of the same length as what you've got there. And it's I start off kind of like tying a shoelace. Down and around over, like that. And then to do the final tie off, I take both ends together, and I just loop it around, kind of take it, twist it, and put the end right in there, tuck it through. Takes a little bit of dexterity. Okay, and then you tighten down the knot. There we go, just like that. And to make it really tight, just take both ends and kind of give it a good little pull. So, key is when you're wrapping this, don't do it too loosely or it will fall off and you'll have uneven bands. And don't do it too tightly, because then you're going to have a hard time getting it off. So then after you've done at this point, just cut off the extra string very close to the knot. Get rid of it. And just slip it off the block like that. So then the next thing, I'm going to take my 2 size 0 knitting needles. I'm going to put it in on either edge. And so you see how you've got that tied off knot? Sometimes it can be a little tricky to conceal, but I put it pretty much right at the knitting needle. And so then to make the hank of yarn, you need to twist it. So you take the 2 knitting needles and you twist them in the opposite directions. You're keeping the yarn taut, but not pulling too tight. And I just I don't really have a specific gauge point as to when to stop, other than, when it starts to do that, it starts to bend back in on itself. So then what I do is I kind of press it down in the middle. I don't know if I can best show you this. Press it down in the middle, put the 2 knitting needles kind of together like that. Okay. And then it kind of starts to twist back on itself, and you just help it do that. Okay, so now it looks like this. And I like to so what I do is I take one of the ends, kind of pull the knitting needle down, and I put it through the center of the other end of the hank there. Because what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to use the knitting needle to pull the end, this part in through this loop, and pull it out the other end. So, pardon me. Okay, so it kind of looks like that. I just pulled it through, take the other knitting needle out, and kind of pull. There you go. You have a mini hank of yarn. Beautiful. Perfect. And you can use it for anything. So now what you need to do is I'm going to put this down. So what I have here is it's just a split ring. I just opened it up a little bit like that. I take this off my knitting needle. I put it on through the end, like that. And then before I seal off the ring, I'm going to take my earring bit, slip it on there, like that. Close up the split ring, and I kind of like to hide that gap right there. And there you have it. And may you have lots and lots of fun making these. Again, I'm Emily Dvorak. So should you feel like leaving a comment, I would love to have them. I would like to be making more of these videos. So if there's something that you want to see, let me know.